So basically, how do you change all those people I'm talking about? You don't. You change you. And when you change you, that's when your world begins to change. See, God said to build a better world, and I said, how? It's such a cold and lonely place, and I'm so small and useless, there's nothing I can do. But God, in all His wisdom, said, just build a better you. That's what this is about, building a better you. Because you see, you got to be before you can do. You got to do before you can have. You got such a wide range of choices, and we're filled with them. Read a story of some twins, two twins. One of them was an alcoholic. One of them was enormously successful. Their father was an alcoholic. In separate interviews, they asked the alcoholic twin, how did it happen that you became an alcoholic? He said, I had no choice. You see, my father was an alcoholic. They asked a very successful young man, how'd you do it? He said, I had no choice. You see, my father was an alcoholic. I didn't want to be like him. The choice, you see, is ours. And we go through life with that. Now, as you can tell, as I said earlier, I do tell a lot of stories. I'm going to share a lot of philosophy with you. Philosophy simply means the love of wisdom. One of the things that you will hear me say over and over is that you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. I'll be quoting an awful lot of people. I'll be quoting Fred Smith. I'll be quoting John Maxwell, John Johnson, Mary Kay, Mary Crowley, Solomon, Lincoln, Confucius, Emerson, St. Augustine, Christ, Helen Keller, Mother Teresa, Dr. Forrest Tennant, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, Martin Luther King, George Washington Carver. I'll be quoting Mahatma Gandhi and many, many others. I try to give credit when somebody gives me information. I do that for three reasons. Number one, it is the right thing to do. Number two, it indicates I've done my research. Number three, if it's wrong, I can always say, that fella ought to have known better than that, okay? Now, let me say to you without any fear of error that you were born to win. But in order to be the winner that you were born to be, you got to plan to win, you got to prepare to win, and then and only then can you legitimately expect to win. Let me also tell you something else. Most of you in this live audience honestly and sincerely believe that my overhead is fairly well fouled up. Now, am I right on that, please, all right? Let me point out that really it is not fouled up. It is simply a little out of focus. Does that make it better? You see, focus makes a lot of difference. Focus simply means that you're in the same place physically and emotionally. Dr. Lewis Terman in 1920 at Stanford University started a study on 1,440 gifted youngsters. When he retired, another professor was assigned to them. They followed them to the end of their life. Many of them were extremely successful, brilliant young men and women. Many of them had gone on to great success. Not a single one attributed their IQ to their success. What they attributed to their success was their ability to focus on the issue at hand. You see, a lot of people, when they're working on the job, they're thinking about other things. They're thinking about the family. When they're with the family, they're thinking about the job. And they're not doing either job very effectively. You really need to be able to focus on what's going on. Now, let me simply say this. You were born to win, but you got to plan, you got to prepare, and you got to expect to win. Bobby Knight, who's won 3 national championships at basketball at Indiana University, says that the will to win is nothing without the will to prepare to win. In the National Football League, and I'm not a football expert, authority, the only thing I know about football, and know that I know, is that when the official calls a foul on the Cowboys, he is wrong. That's the only thing I really know about the game. But I do know one other thing about it, and that is this. In the last 2 minutes of the half, and in the last 2 minutes of the game, they score 20% of all of the points that are scored during the entire 60 minutes. In 4 minutes, they score 20% of all of the points in the entire 60 minutes. And the reason they do is they have the 2-minute offense. Into the first half, into the second half is when they do the score. And they plan to score. They prepare to score. And consequently, they expect to score. then incredibly enough, the defense cooperates with them to help them score. Now, I know as you sit there in your car or whatever you're doing, listen to this, you're thinking, now, Ziglar, that's crazy, man. Why, the defense all week long, they practice that defense. They have what they call the prevent defense. They take the linebackers out, they send in their nickel backs, they put in their two best pass rushers, they get in a bend but don't break mode. They call it the prevent defense. Well, let me ask you a question. If they score 3 times as fast against the prevent defense as they do the regular defense, is it prevent or permit? What do you think? Now, let me kind of get us together and think, because you see, a few thousand years ago, a fellow named Job said something that's profound. He said, that which I feared greatly has come to pass. They're afraid they're going to score, and that fear comes to pass. Now, psychologists will tell you in a New York minute, and for your information, that's 32 seconds. They will tell you in a New York minute that you move to the strongest impression in your mind. And if you're afraid they're going to score on you, then the chances go up that, yes, they will score on you. Did you know that if an arresting police officer keeps the light flashing when he pulls a motorist aside, that the odds are 7 times as great that he will be run into by a passing motorist? That's right. They call it the moth attraction. The field goal kicker who says, oh, I'll miss it, we'll lose the game, is much more likely to miss it than is the one who says, I'll split the uprights, we'll win the game. The worst possible thing a parent can say to a child who wants to help with the dishes is, okay, but be careful. This is our best china. Don't break it. If they'd sat up all night praying, Lord, what can I tell this kid to help him break the dishes? They couldn't have done a better job in doing it. The sales manager who sends a salesperson out and said, now this is our #1 account. Don't foul it up. Couldn't have given them worse instruction. I'm sending you out because I have complete confidence that you're the one person I can depend on to handle this in the very best possible way. Let me give you a specific example. How many of you remember the tragedy that took place in San Francisco in 1982 when the San Francisco 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys in the FC Championship game? Now, I know a lot of you folks listening to this not going to think it was a tragedy, but believe me, it was. You remember what happened. Dallas had just gone ahead. They'd scored a touchdown. Now they kick off. 2 minutes to play. Montana leads the 49ers all the way down the field. We've got our prevent defense in there. And you know what the play was? He sends Dwight Clark into the end zone. He throws him the pass. Clark doesn't realize he's trying to throw the ball out of the stadium. He jumps 28 feet. Straight up in the air. Makes the catch. The 49ers win the game. Now, when the Cowboys got back the next day, Tex Schramm, who was the president of the Cowboys at that time, was being interviewed by the media. And they asked him, Tex, what happened? And he gave us a lesson in life with his answer. He said the Dallas Cowboys went out there determined not to lose the game. The San Francisco 49ers went out there determined to win the game. See, in this series, I want you thinking, how do I win the game? What I know about football, I'm not a football coach, but I am a verbal coach. I wouldn't send nickelbacks out there to defend for my team. How much value, if somebody said, I'm going to send my nickel employee out to help you. I mean, I got a service person, Hey, would that really turn to light your fire? Or would you think, boy, I'll be at least a dime. Well, anyhow, what I would do is I would send the Bruise Brothers out there. I would send the takeover guys. I would send the control team out there. I would send the intimidators out there. I would send somebody out determined not only to keep them from scoring, but to take that ball away and us score ourselves. Yes, I believe that you were designed for accomplishment. I believe you're engineered for success. I believe you're endowed with the seeds of greatness. You were born to win. But you got to have a plan if you are going to win. Now, what is winning? Well, the reality is that all of us want basically the same thing. And I'll be talking about this a whole lot. Everybody wants to be happy. I've never yet met anybody who said, no, I want to be miserable. Everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to be at least reasonably prosperous, and I know many of you want to be unreasonably prosperous. That's okay. I've had money and I haven't had it, and I'm here to tell you, it's better to have it, folks. There's just, no question about it. Now, a lot of times, some of my Bible-reading friends will misquote the Bible and say, well, Zig, the Bible says that money is the root of all evil, and obviously it doesn't. He said the love of money is the root of all evil. Christ himself, 2/3 of the parables he taught, had to do with our physical and financial well-being. 2/3 of the success stories there had to do with that subject. There's a lot more talk about success in the Bible than there is heaven. Good Samaritan never could have put that old boy up at the inn after he'd been mugged if he hadn't had some money to do it with. Now, all of that said, yes, everybody, is interested in money. Everybody wants to be secure. They want to have friends, peace of mind. They want to have good family relationships, and they want to have hope that the future is going to be even better. Now, I'd like for you to kind of go with me on this. What part does hope play in all of this? I believe it's the basis of everything. You see, John Maxwell says if there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. Answer these questions as you listen to this tape. How happy can you be if you had no hope? How healthy would you be if you had no hope? How prosperous could you be if you had no hope? How secure are you with no hope? How many friends would you be able to accumulate if you're the kind of person who's just always moping and groping and griping and complaining, How much peace of mind is there, and how would your family relationships be? I think hope is the key to an awful lot of things. Let me emphasize a point. I will never tell you that acquiring these things is going to be easy. I know that life is tough. But I also know that when you're tough on yourself, that life can be tremendously rewarding to you. When you discipline yourself to do the things you need to do, when you need to do them, the day's going to come you can do the things you want to do when you want to do them. But my friends, the road to the top goes through lots of valleys. You do not develop champions on a feather bed. There's got to be those trials and difficulties in order for you to develop the muscles and the qualities that's going to make such a difference in your life. Some of the things I will be saying over and over is you do have to be before you can do. You got to do before you can have. Some years ago, I was coming in on a plane, which is generally the way I fly. And I was seated next to an old boy. Couldn't help but notice he had his wedding band on the index finger of his left hand. A little unusual. I commented on it. I said, friend, you got your wedding band on the wrong finger. And he said, yeah, I married the wrong woman. Well, I don't know if he married the wrong woman or not. I'm delighted to be able to say I did not marry the wrong woman. Last November, the redhead and I. Now, when I talk about my wife, at her suggestion, I always call her the redhead. When I'm talking to her, it's Sugar Baby. Her name is Jean. And incidentally, she's been inducted into the MasterCard Hall of Fame. And she is so excited. She made the all-mall team at Prestonwood Shopping Center 8 years in a row. And last year, she was MVP, Most Valuable Purchaser. Now, incidentally, her name is Jean. A lot of times, when I'm talking to her, I always call her Sugar Baby. A lot of times people say to me, does your wife know you say all of those things about her? I said, Chuck, she helps me write the material. Now, let me point something out. She never gets offended. If she did, I would not say it. But the reason she doesn't get offended is she knows my heart. You see, we'd been married over 27 years before I was ever able to give her even financial stability, much less financial security. And yet during all of those years, not once do I ever remember her saying, honey, if we just had more money, here's what we could do. Or if we had more financial stability, here's what we could do. See, there was one 5-year stretch when I was in 17 different deals, and that's all they were, just deals. But during all those years, he would always say, honey, tomorrow's going to be better. You can do it. Then the two things that meant the most to me, I love you and I believe in you. I cannot begin to tell you what it meant to me to have a cheerleader cheering for me every day of my life and praying for me every night of my life. I can tell you without any reservation, no fear of error, that had it not been for her, I would not be talking to you on this recording right now. That encouragement and support meant it all. She knows, and I know about her. First of all, half the money is hers. The only time she goes berserk is when she's shopping for the grandchildren. And had we known grandchildren were going to be so much fun, we certainly would have been nicer to their parents. But anyhow, she knows that I delight in seeing her go shopping because she's very responsible. And it's a delight to be able to have her do that because for so long she could not. No, she does not get the least bit upset about the fact that I tease about that. Last November, as I said, we celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. Now, we've been married 48 years. But we had heard so much about the 50th, we just decided to, go ahead and celebrate early. And I'm here to tell you that that really is some more celebration. Folks, one of the reasons I believe I'm qualified to make suggestions and make a difference in your life is, you see, I walked in your shoes. Today I was reminiscing in my own mind and thinking about something. The redhead brought 3 $20 bills downstairs that I had inadvertently left upstairs. And it reminded me when I was a young salesman in Lancaster, South Carolina, when we were having such a struggle. I've had my lights turned off. I've had my telephone disconnected. I had to turn a car back in that I didn't want to turn back in. My first baby was born. The hospital bill was $64. I didn't have $64. I had to get out and make 2 sales in order to get my own baby out of the hospital. And I so vividly remember one day as I was struggling with how do I eat and how do we put gasoline in the car to go make the sales calls. And I was kind of going through some of my drawers there at home, and there was 2 $20 bills and a $10 bill. It looked like all the money in the world. I've been confused many times in my life. I didn't know what I'd be doing tomorrow, much less next week, next month, or 5 years down the path. I don't believe there's anybody who will ever listen to this recording who has ever been as despondent on occasion in those early years and is puzzled and is curious. What do I do? Why can't I make things happen? I've been down that route. And yes, I've hurt as much as anybody here, I believe. On May 13th of 1995, my oldest daughter went home to be with the Lord. I know what it is to feel pain. I've felt your feelings. I've walked in your shoes. I know what does work. I know what does not work. And that's the reason I believe hope is such an important ingredient. John Maxwell put it well, if there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. John Johnson put it this way. It's not the color of your skin. It's not the place of your birth. It's the size of your hope that's going to determine where you're going to go in your life. John Johnson was born in a shotgun house with a tin roof in Arkansas City, Arkansas. For those of you who don't know what a shotgun house is, let me simply tell you, it's a house with a roof on it, and you're so named because you could point a shotgun and fire it through that house and wouldn't hit anything at all because it's just a shell. Today, John lives next door to Bob Hope part of the time. He lives in a high-rise on the Gold Coast overlooking Lake Michigan the rest of the time. He's been a guest in the White House with every president since Eisenhower. one of the 400 wealthiest people in America, owns his own insurance company, own cosmetic company, Ebony magazine. And when he says, it's not the place of your birth or the color of your skin, it's the size of the hope, I take him very seriously, because I do believe he knows what he is talking about.